It feels like a microwave minute since I made the first Stereotypes video. Derail Valley and my channel have both changed a lot, so this should be interesting. Before we begin, I have some mandatory stuff to say. I said it in the first video, but I'll say it again. Credit for the video format and the music you're hearing all goes to Soundsmith. Please check him out so the burden of my sins is a little lighter. Also, everything said here is all in good fun. Talking shit on your favorite engine or making fun of furries does not mean I'm making a blanket statement that I'm presenting as fact. Oh, and one more thing. Can someone tell me why a ton of furries play this game? I'm going to ease into this by covering a simple one first. If you find yourself often going out of your way to use an 060 instead of DM3 or DE2, you fall into one of three categories. The first is one I mentioned in the last video, that being the Scrooge. The Scrooge, as the name implies, is all about efficiency and hoarding every last penny they can. They exclusively use the steam engines because of their cheaper costs that don't detract from their pulling power. They put up with the harder operation because they live for money. Despite the fact that a lot of the Valley's money lies in long trains of hazmat pulled by a DE6 or two, they go old school to not risk crash disaster or miscalculating the operation costs. They may appear very similar to a standard grinder at first, but you can tell them apart by a bulge in the rear of their pants. Such an anomaly indicates the presence of a stick up their ass, so steer clear. The second category is the other one I mentioned in the last video, that being a term I coined, the Steeaboo, a mixture of steam and weeaboo. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just really like steam engines. You might have actually gotten the game specifically to drive them, and you may or may not be coping and seething over the fact that the 060's whistle sounds like it came from Fisher-Price. It is not uncommon for the Steeaboos to find themselves in a rough financial spot because they avoided buying high-priority licenses so they could have access to the steamers quickly. As a Steeaboo myself, I have something to say. Alt Future, please give us a classic American 440. Diesels outnumber the steam engines and the electrics are gaining ground. I need the cowboy choo-choo, not one of those later ones with the goofy driver spacing. I mean the true classics with the giant cone stacks and the large drivers that are right next to each other. Delivering an armor unit to a military base with one would go unfathomably hard. I'm begging you. Moving on, the third category is being a furry. Yes, I'm bringing it up. I mentioned it in my handcard video and I feel like I have to mention it here. No, I am definitely not being held at gunpoint by an effeminate man dressed as a wolf. Seriously though, a lot of furries play this game. Maybe I'll make a video examining the phenomenon to see if there's some form of link between liking trains and liking anthropomorphic animals. I know it sounds weird, but I swear to God they walk among us. Get this, it's not just steam engines. That means that the diesel locomotives aren't safe either. Because of that, it's... really? Fine. It's best to just let them do their thing. If they can afford a $2,000 fursuit, they can afford a $20 pipe bomb. DM3 has the most complicated web of users for a locomotive that I've covered so far. The DE2's network is simply made up of people who have to use it or hate themselves, but the DM3 has numerous splintering paths. It's almost as if Stereotypes don't cover everyone. To aid in the explanation, I made this Venn diagram. The main trifecta are the normal people, the noobs, and the tryhards. Since that doesn't make very good content, we can see that there are many stereotypes tucked within the folds. We have some standard fare like the grinders who use it for the balance of power and price, or more goddamn furries, but there's a very specific spectrum that can be seen among the stereotypes that I want to cover in detail. Towards one extreme, we have power shifters. These people live for throwing the DM3 into each and every gear with admittedly impressive skill in listening to the engine sing. If someone is on their way to becoming a power shifter but isn't quite there yet, you're left with a money shifter. Similar to the perpetrator of a money shift in cars, these people try to power shift, but the only shifting they do sometimes is from 4th gear to frag grenade. Speaking of explosives, the opposite extreme is populated by a band of noobs who I'm calling 20th century British officials. As the name implies, vehicles these people drive have a habit of blowing. Most of the people who play Derail Valley are my age or older, so most of you should get that joke. The first stereotype is the bane of friendships. Despite the negative connotation the name brings, these people are usually good-natured and fun to be around. However, they have a trait that pisses people off. They're really good at Mario Kart. It happens far too often that someone is so good at Mario Kart that they always wipe the floor with everyone and drive them away from playing. Unfortunately, I can relate. In Derail Valley, these people apply their countdown boost knowledge to the DH4 to try power launches with the torque converter. Speaking of the torque converter, I need to get something off my chest. When I see a DH4, my blood boils. Why? Boy howdy, I'll tell you why. I think it's busted as shit. From a gameplay standpoint, I believe the DH4 is unbalanced, and that the second stereotype, the Sweat Lord, takes full advantage of that fact. They use the high power for low effort to sap all the fun from the game and look down upon those idiotic Steam users to hide the fact that the Sweat Lords are all secretly miserable sacks of shit. I must admit that I still use it because I enjoy the torque converter, bell, and paint job, but damn. Just damn. This thing is strictly powerful in a metaphorical sense, so it might as well be a schizophrenia manifestation because it stops existing for people after a while. To be fair, most people don't want to spend half an hour moving 4 cars at walking speed, so they would rather hit the road with something literally powerful, even if they pay the price for it. Those who let it collect dust make up the first stereotype, so who else uses this thing? There are the elite few battery boys who comprehend and wield its immense metaphorical power to the fullest, but there's also the Elon fangirls. These people follow Elon Musk and the Tesla account on Twitter and want to buy a Tesla but can't because they spent all their money on Starbucks, vinyl records, and political merchandise from an anti-capitalism cafe. I wish that was more of a joke than it is. They drive the BE2 because it's the quirky little underdog electric vehicle, not realizing how they've contributed sweet fuck all to actual social justice and or saving the planet. Actually, the slug is in the locomotive due to it lacking a prime mover and a cab. Whatever the hell it is, I'm talking about it because I don't want people wishing that I did cover it after I hesitated because I predicted this scenario. There isn't really much to say about the slug. You have to go out of your way to unlock it, and it only helps you in specific scenarios, so that means one thing. If you use the slug, you mean business, plain and simple. In the previous video, a stereotype I mentioned for the DE6 was the big money Barry. Someone who throws caution and cost to the wind and throws together a breadwinning train long and heavy enough to make Jormungandr ask if you're compensating for something. They usually aren't doing it for the grind like a Scrooge, though. They're just having fun pushing the limits. Considering the slug's best use scenario, I feel like its primary stereotype would be an extension of the BNB. Actually, shut the fuck up. This may be Locomotive stereotypes, but this is my goddamn video. Anyways, people who use the handcar can be divided into 2 categories, but someone who is one can be both. We have the Chads and the Psychos. The Chads, as the name implies, are based individuals who just piddle around in the handcar for fun and use it instead of fast travel or spamming the F key. The Psychos, on the other hand, are another beast entirely. Their motives are unclear to me, even as someone who spent time as one to make a video about the damn thing. Is it penance for their railroading sins? Is it twisted pleasure? Whatever their reasoning, the Psychos can be found moving railcars around with it, sometimes wasting up to an hour doing something that could have been done in 15 minutes, with the added bonus of having a locomotive already fired up and ready to do what comes next. When I say railcars, I don't mean 1 or 2. Spawning in a cheap vehicle that you can't overheat or deplete of fuel for an easy adjustment is perfectly normal. However, you are not John Henry. Cease your antics and seek help. Alright, this is definitely not a locomotive. As a comment on the first video said, this one will be easy. No one uses this. Unfortunately, that's about all there is to say. I suppose it could be said that anyone who does use it is either brave or foolish. Brave if you simply love the aesthetic and mobile office aspect. Foolish if you frequently spawn it in thinking you'll get your money's worth from the charging stations and extra braking power. Having a map icon for the end of the train is nice for massive deliveries, but you could also just eyeball it or go a consistently safe speed for most of the trip. You also have to consider decoupling from it and moving around every time you switch cargo. That will burn extra fuel and eat up your time. Okay, I'll be honest. The inclusion of this was a troll. However, I do actually have a couple of stereotypes to talk about. First we have Lawn Chair Lawrence, the king of big air quotes, efficiency. An LCL loves to pair his remote to a DE2 and watch it zip around a yard as it shunts a load of logs or something else minor. Just put on some Jimmy Buffett, if you aren't too lazy to mod music into the game, and watch the work get done. The other stereotype is the polar opposite, that being the puppet master. These people honestly creep me out a bit. I do respect their craft of using the remote control for more than small-time shenanigans, but their cunning and pleasure in what they do borders on sociopathy at times. But if Hotline Miami has taught me anything, it's that sociopathy can be kinda tight. Well, that's a wrap. Unless you want me to do shovel stereotypes, I won't drag this out any longer. Thanks for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe to see more of whatever you call the various things I make. Later. Just kidding, I am gonna do shovel stereotypes. If you use the stock shovel as your melee weapon, oh shit, wrong game. If you use the standard shovel, you appreciate balance and simplicity. Hole in the hole, 2 or 3 scoops, you're good to go. No need to shovel like a madman or do math with the expert shovel. No need to waste coal or time scoops perfectly with the golden shovel. You just put coal in the hole and get things done. I respect sticking to the classic, even if it does waste a bit of coal on occasion. Yep, this is the screwed shovel. You probably could have seen that coming from the top of the hill into the coal mine. Gather round, children. Let me tell you a fairy tale. This one's called The Pimp and the Pauper. A long time ago, there once was a pauper in the valley. After hours of shunting with the DE2 and completing their first run with a steam engine, they wanted to purchase a new shovel. Tired of being looked down upon, the pauper chose the golden shovel because they thought people would respect them. Unbeknownst to the pauper, that decision would be their undoing. Feeling confident, the pauper chose a very heavy load to take up the slope out of the coal mine. They furiously flung mountains of coal into the firebox and had water constantly feeding into the boiler. Just as the pauper hit the meat of the hill, they reached back for more coal and found only a realization. The pauper was a fucking dumbass. Meanwhile, the pimp was humming a tune as they used the golden shovel once to get the engine started, admired its beauty, and put it away. The end.